It's my nature to be dominant. Dominant and abusive are two completely different things. Therapist allegedly choked and threatened to kill patient he was having an affair with after she broke up with him.
I just don't want to continue this, relationship with you. And he snapped.
Extremely possessive, paired with catastrophic abandonment issues. What do you mean you don't want this woman to leave? You're not supposed to be with her in the first place, both as a professional and as a married man. Then express this through physical violence. There's nothing dominant about that. In a situation where everything is all wrong, you let your emotions run the show. What's dominant about it? I think the shrink needs a shrink of his own. A Houston therapist was allegedly having an extramarital affair with one of his patients, big no-no, and became exceedingly violent with rage when she broke up with him. Law enforcement in the Lone Star State say Thaddeus Tolbert, 31, stands accused of 1 count each of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and burglary of a habitation, according to criminal complaint filed in Harris County. Jhyah Scales, 29, first came to know the man when he was her child's therapist beginning in October 2023. Their relationship would develop, still along professional lines, in February 2024 when she began to see Tolbert for her own psychological purposes as well. It's manipulation. You're dealing with someone who studies the way people think. You're dealing with someone who studies the way they behave. Do you think this is random that they just fell for each other? Like that's a moray. First it started off as professional, then professional friends. Then now you can see me one-on-one. You'll be my patient now. Then boom, all of a sudden they're sleeping together. This was not random. The ethical road, however, was allegedly worn out soon enough. She started to see him outside of that sexually in March of 2024, according to the complaint. And you might say, Avery, she's a grown woman. She made a decision to sleep with that man, and you would be correct. But there's a vulnerability between a therapist and a patient, and he used that vulnerability to get the draws. That's what makes it unethical. But their romance did not last long. Near the end of the very next month, Scales learned her doctor-turned-lover was married and had children of his own, authorities say. On April 29th, Scales was in Tolbert's office, and she ended the relationship upon learning about his family, which led to arguing about their relationship, according to the complaint. And this is what lets me know that if she knew he was married from the rip, she wouldn't have messed with him at all. Defendant took his gun out from his waist and placed it on his table before he pinned her to the wall. The complaint reads, defendant began to scream at her, saying that she could not leave him.
I was really caught off guard. I didn't think someone like this could be so capable of this because he's a mental health professional, because he's a therapist, because he's active in the community. As embarrassed as I am now, I have to do something because I could have died in here with my child.
Whatever happened to baby don't go, please baby, please baby? What, that doesn't work anymore? If someone walked up to me on the streets and told me this happened, the first thing I would ask them is, what TV show is this? What was this on Lifetime? This can't be real. It's too outrageous to not be a Tubi movie. The alleged attack only stopped, according to the complaint, when someone knocked on the door. Then Scales took the opportunity to leave and went to go pick her daughter up from school. When the woman arrived back home, she found the therapist waiting for her, idling in his vehicle outside. The complaint says Scales took precautions by giving her daughter to a neighbor before heading inside her own apartment. Well, she didn't tell the neighbor to call the cops. Then when Tolbert entered without a key, she told him to leave. Instead, he began choking her, kissing her, and telling her that he loved her and that they would die before he let her walk away from him, according to the complaint. Tolbert allegedly left the woman's apartment and returned again twice that same day. He's really a psychotherapist. First, he left because his vehicle was blocking the road and people were honking. Then he allegedly came back in, pushing his way through the back door, but left when he got a phone call. Let's not lose sight that this man is a therapist, and he not only treats adults, he treats children. He was treating this woman's child. The irony of this, that he treats people for behavioral issues and mental hangups when him himself is a whole sociopath. How long is his patience list? While the therapist was gone the second time, Scales texted him to say that she would be contacting his wife to tell him about everything that transpired between them and what he did to her, according to the complaint. Tolbert allegedly returned within an hour or so. That was a hell of a gamble, but you're dealing with someone who cares nothing about hurting anyone. He cares nothing for what anyone else wants in the first place. After allegedly forcing his way inside for the third time, a scramble ensued wherein Tolbert alternately apologized to, professed his love for, and choked the woman again, according to the complaint, using all all the tools in his bag to keep up the manipulation. Complaint stated that she could not breathe and everything became hot while seeing red and blue spots. The complaint reads, the last alleged attack was focused on Scales' cell phones. Tolbert demanded her to unlock her phones and to delete everything, the complaint says, as the two allegedly scrambled over control of the phones, which Scales had thrown into the middle of her couch. Tolbert allegedly pulled out his gun at least twice. One time, the defendant allegedly hit Scales in the chin with the firearm. Scales fought back, she told law enforcement. Where is law enforcement? Using her hands to apply the little pressure she could to the man's gun in order to keep it from being drawn and grabbing at his arm and face to survive.
He pulled out like his gun to put it to my head. I pushed it down and he like hit it back up so it hit me when he came back up. And then I was just begging him like please just leave. Please just leave, like do anything, you can just leave. And he was like, you know what, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill us both.
Crying and whining and begging all at the same time while trying to pull a gun on this woman. Yeah, that's very dominant behavior. This was a very volatile situation. We don't know how this could have turned out, but shout out to this woman for not wanting her child to be there while this man was carrying on. Maybe those multiple distractions took a little bit of steam out of him, long enough for him to lose interest and eventually leave, because even an accident in this situation could have been potentially fatal. At one point, the woman called one of her cousins using the speakerphone function. Various of Tolbert's threats to kill everyone were overheard, prompting the incident to stop, according to the complaint. A grown-ass man throwing a child's temper tantrum. The therapist then allegedly took on a blank look and stared at his former lover, put his gun away, and finally left. Scales later recounted some of Tolbert's alleged exhortations as the violence went on. I'm going to kill you. I'll kill us both. Why are you doing this? I love you too much. That's dominant behavior, right? On May 1st, the woman made her first report of the incident to the Houston Police Department. An intake officer noted she had a black left eye and bruises on both of her upper arms in the triceps area. During an ensuing investigation, the alleged victim's neighbor recalled taking Scales' daughter that day and seeing a man matching Tolbert's description. The woman's cousin, for his part, recalled an argument on speakerphone, but said he could not understand what was being said. When Tolbert himself was questioned, he admitted to being in both locations with Scales on the day in question. The defendant denied any physical altercation with Scales, according to the Houston Police Department. This is a very practiced behavior. Obviously, he sees absolutely nothing wrong with what he's doing because he's a sociopath. It's hard to believe that this is the only woman that he's done this to. There has to be some more out there. In May 2023, Tolbert appeared on a podcast to discuss mental health concepts like intergenerational trauma and masculinity. Yeah, you're dealing it out. You're part of the chain. I'm sure you could go on for hours and hours about it. I've told every black mother that I've encountered that has a son, it's difficult to express as a boy, as a young man, my feelings to a woman, because like in my nature, it's my nature to be dominant. Ladies, please don't send your son to him for therapy. Please don't do that. It's in my nature to be a man or whatnot. The therapist told the podcast host, being dominant does not include being manipulative and being abusive. Those are the tools for the desperate. And as we've been taught, and unfortunately we pass these things on genetically because we've learned, the previous generations learned from the previous generations that this is what a man is supposed to do. This is how a man exudes his manhood. On Wednesday, a judge set bail at $50,000 for each count against the defendant, which he subsequently made court records show. Tolbert is next slated to appear in court for his arraignment on August 12th.
I feel like after initial guilt, after blaming myself, I want to hold him accountable.
There you have it, folks. Thaddeus Tolbert exuding intergenerational trauma and passing it off as manhood. I'd love to hear your comments on this.